and thank you for attending Building Your Toolbox, a monthly educational series where individuals learn a pain management strategy or skill. Tonight, we are happy to be joined by guest presenter Bob Deschner, who will share information about magnetic field energy. My name is Michelle Rice, and I have lived with chronic pain for over 23 years, and I serve as the patient engagement lead for the U.S. Pain Foundation. Tonight is all about understanding how magnetic field energy ties into chronic pain. Some of the things we will learn include the science behind magnetic field energy and magnetic products, how magnetic field energy may be used to release blockages and promote your body's ability to heal itself, and suggestions on how to use magnetic field energy to promote relaxation, comfort, and better sleep. To close, we will open it up for Q&A. I'm excited to introduce our guest presenter this evening, who has been a champion for those living with chronic pain for decades. Bob Deschner is a classically trained chemist and chemical engineer who has developed expertise with nutritional supplements, essential fatty acid, prostaglandin, inflammatory disease metabolism, and energy medicine. He is board president and co-founder of VetTrip Incorporated, a nonprofit that provides free integrative health programs for veterans, service members, and their families living with intense symptoms of post-traumatic stress and chronic pain. VetTrip programs provide a wide range of modalities, including therapeutic massage, acupuncture and acupressure, natural energy techniques such as Reiki, Qigong, and yoga, aromatherapy, and magnetic products. He has worked with thousands of people with magnetic products since becoming a Nikken independent distributor in 1994 and has demonstrated magnetic products nationally. Bob, thank you so much for being here, and let me go ahead and turn the floor over to you.
There we go. I agree with everything you said in the disclaimer. In fact, I have a very common sense approach, which I hope will come through tonight. I have my own disclaimers. If you have a medical condition, you need to get to a medical professional for diagnosis and treatment. And I'm not a licensed medical professional, so I do not treat, diagnose, or prescribe. We do not make medical claims except for FDA-approved medical devices, and that's in transition as the FDA starts to approve many things that have been forbidden in the past. If you're being treated for a serious medical condition, follow your healthcare professional's guidance in using magnetic products, especially if you're pregnant and have implanted devices such as a pacemaker, defibrillator, pump, or electrostimulation device. What I can do is I can share my own personal experiences and observations I've had working with many other people. A real resource, if you're interested in this topic at all, is to go to the NIH National Center for Complementary and Integrative Health. They have a web page, Magnets for Pain, what you need to know, and there's the link there, so you'll be able to see that on the recording. I took some excerpts from that web page, and what they say basically is of 7 studies that they looked at, there were many other studies that didn't meet their standards. But of the 7 studies they looked at, they had mixed results. 4 of the studies showed improvement in pain and 3 did not. And that's why this is such a confusing issue. The second thing I saw from the site, which is good, is they finally came around and decided that they are in fact safe for treating pain. So as far as they're concerned, there's no negative side effects for trying magnetic therapy, including for people with chronic diseases and pain. But then they give some common sense advice. Magnets and magnetic therapy devices should be kept out of the reach of children, mainly because they may swallow them and the magnets may attract each other in their stomach and cause problems. You should have other safety concerns if you have pacemakers or implanted medical devices of any kind, because they may interact and interfere with that. Of course, if you're pregnant or have a serious health condition, you need to talk with your healthcare provider about using magnetic therapy. The problem is a lot of traditional medicine doctors don't know much about that unless they've focused on it with their own patients or themselves. So the people most likely to know more about it are people like acupuncturists, which use acupuncture magnets instead of needles sometimes are chiropractors that tend to try different things like nutritional supplements and energy products. I will point out the real obvious thing, and that is if you have any kind of metallic or magnetic products on your body while you go in for an MRI, that's not a good idea because those magnets are really powerful and you don't want to do that. And I will say that if you want to try static magnets or electromagnetics, before you buy them or even try them, talk to your healthcare provider that really has some experience in this area and look for their guidance. Now, what I can tell you is my own personal experience. And I literally started working with magnetic products because I'm an engineer, classically trained and very skeptical. And I knew, just absolutely knew that there was no benefit or effect of magnets on the body. And I started meeting people that had stories to share. And the first one was a Vietnam veteran who had horrific war injuries. And for 25 years, he lived in debilitating pain. He didn't sleep much. He couldn't move much. His life was really pretty horrific. And I'm sure many of you are familiar with that situation. A friend of his gave him a magnetic seat cushion that had magnets embedded in them, and a pair of shoe inserts that were magnetic. And in 2 weeks, he said he stopped hurting. I knew as an engineer, there's no way the human body could recover that much. Something else was going on. And it's only lately that I've been having a better understanding of how that works. But I then used the magnetic shoe inserts for myself. I was coaching soccer with my kids, and my foot and heel pain was like a knife stuck in my foot or in my heel. Every time I played soccer, I'd ache for hours. In the morning, first thing out of bed, it would ache. And again, I know there's people here that can probably appreciate that. And I used a pair of magnetic shoe inserts in my tennis shoes for 3 hours. And in 2 hours, an hour later, I played soccer for 2 hours with no pain at all. Now, that's not going to happen for everybody. And I have a better understanding about what's going on, which I'm going to share with you later. But a lot of questions came out of those experiences. And I was on a path of discovery that started in 1994, and we've had amazing observations, surprising observations since then. So I want to share some of those examples. Start out with common thing is just discomfort. I can't say pain because pain is a medical claim, but I can say agonizing hurt, ache, and discomfort. If I get relief from that, I can say that I did that. And I've had car accidents, I have skiing accidents, I have had injuries over the years. I played football in high school and wrestled in high school and college. So I have had my share of injuries, and the magnets I've used since 1994 to allow me to perform better with less discomfort and recover better. As I've aged, I have started having swelling in my ankles and my feet. And I put the magnets on my feet and my low back, and it reduces the swelling. That's my personal testimony, but I've had many others that I've observed getting similar results. There's been studies showing that magnets, especially the static grid magnets and the pulsating magnets, can improve circulation that's restricted. That's really a great thing unless you're bleeding. If you have an injury or a cut or something that's bleeding, you don't want to increase circulation. And the second thing we've observed is that it reduces clotting. It breaks up clots. You can actually have a bruise on your leg or your arm and put a grid magnet over it, over the small area of it. And in 24 hours, that bruise will tend to dissolve. But normally it takes 6 or 8 days to do that. So again, if you have something that's a recent surgery, a recent injury where you've had bleeding, wait for it to clot, wait for it to recover enough before you start trying to increase circulation. It may be a day, maybe 2 days. Another area that's really amazing is stiffness. And many people will say, I have a muscle spasm. And what they don't realize is that muscles can only spasm for 20 minutes. After 20 minutes, the muscle fatigues. They call it tetanus. And if it's not the muscle seizing, what is it? It's the fascia, the muscle sheath around the muscle that gets contracted and constricted. It causes stiffness, it'll contract the muscles, it'll curl your fist up. And I've seen people, like my friend Nicole, there were times when she couldn't loosen up her hand. And by putting a magnet or doing energy, we were able to get her hand to smell. And that was one of the first examples I had working with RSD. And it's not going to happen with everybody, but I can show you how to get the best performance for that. Another area is simply performance. I've been an athlete most of my life, where I got out of shape and old and aged and overweight, but I still was able to use these products to have more endurance and more performance. And when I went into the gym, I actually tried it. I could lift more weights with more repetition while I'm using the magnetic products. And that was a real plus. I've shown other people how to do that, from weightlifters to bodybuilders, as well as just general athletes. But performance also relates to people that have had nerve damage or strokes. I have a friend whose brother had a stroke 17 years ago. And 2 weeks ago, I met him at our vet trip program. And his right arm was partially paralyzed. He was very stiff in his hand and his fingers. He could move them very poorly. They were not very flexible. And I put a magnet underneath his right forearm in his hand. And I put another shoe insert up against the left side of his head where he had the stroke. And in 10 to 15 minutes, he could move all his fingers. He could move his wrist. He could rotate his wrist. And he could lift his arm like it used to be. That was 17 years. So if it works, sometimes it's dramatic. Sometimes it's not at all. And sometimes it actually hurts. And I will tell you that overstimulation is one of the most common things that I've observed with using the magnets. I even, over a period of time, if I use too many magnets for too long, it'll start making me ache. I call that overstimulation. So I take the magnet off. It's common sense. If you put the magnet on or the grid pad or whatever product and it works and you feel better, note when it starts hurting again and take it off. And you may find that the pain or the discomfort goes away very, very quickly. So now it's a matter of what strategy you can use to use the products and then take them off, and use them and take them off. It just makes common sense. But as an engineer, I know that if I move the magnets further away from the body, it makes them lower energy or low intensity, and it makes them milder stimulation, so you can use them for a longer period of time. So you may want to have a seat cushion and put a pillow on top of it and in the back. You may want to put a pad on your body and then put the big grid magnet on it. If for some reason you have a magnetic mattress pad, you may want to put it underneath your mattress or underneath your bed. I've had people put the mattress pad 24 inches away, and those people that are sensitive can still feel it. It's been my observation again that people with high pain are very sensitive to these products, more so than anybody else. Of course, if they're on drugs that numb their nerves, they may not feel it right away. But if, in general, people that have high pain are very sensitive to these products. So it's a matter of coming up with a strategy that works. The other thing that I'll tell you and observed, I've seen it myself as well, is if you have an area that's constricted or tight or blocked or poor circulation for a long enough period of time, you build up lactic acid and waste products. And if you can get it to release, the first thing happens is it makes the rest of your body feel kind of yucky. It's like having a bunch of leaves in the bottom of the swimming pool. In order to get the filter to remove the leaves, you have to stir up the pool. And during that time, the whole pool is kind of dirty. Same way when you have waste products, whether it's chemicals, pesticides, solvents and lubricants, chemotherapy, or even toxins from shingles and herpes that are in your nerves. If you flush them out, initially it feels better, and then it starts feeling kind of worse. Take them off and let them calm down. Let your body go through its own pace and recovery. Of course, it always helps to see a medical professional who's experienced and start searching out those that are experienced to be part of your team. So again, get diagnosed. If you come in and show me that your left arm is hurting, the first thing I do is ask you to see a doctor, because if you're having a heart attack, many times your left arm will hurt. And if I make the pain go away, that's not doing you a service until you can get diagnosed. So pain is a warning. Find out what it's warning you about before you try to mess with it. Second point, your body is doing the healing. The drugs are trying to kill the bad things or do the things that help your body heal. But if you find out what works for you and do it daily until you recover, you're going to ultimately be in charge of your own process of healing. And I've seen this over and over again, where people become more and more expert in their own body, and they know what to do for themselves. May not be general, may not be what you can do for everybody else, but they become an expert in their own condition and their own body. In our program, we focus on creating integrative synergy. Now, what that means is 2 + 2 is equal to 6 or 10 or 20. We try to combine modalities that work together without conflicting, whether it's traditional Western medicine or Ayurvedic medicine from India or traditional Chinese medicine. Each of these branches or systems of medicine have things to offer. And if you're not getting relief from one, you might consider going to experts in the other fields and see what else you can get. And our bottom line is everything, well, almost everything improves with relaxation, comfort, and better sleep. So everything we do is focused on relaxation, comfort, and hopefully getting them better sleep. So let's talk about types of magnetic products next. The biggest static magnetic field, that means a fixed magnetic field, that we're exposed to is the Earth. It's as big as the planet and extends beyond the planet. But it's a very mild magnet. It's half of a Gauss, and most of the magnets that you'll see or try for health purposes are 50 to several hundred Gauss. So the reason the Earth is important is it's so big. We're immersed in this field, and our nervous system is attuned to that. Furthermore, the Earth's magnetic field pulsates. It pulsates at 7.83 cycles per second. There's some other resonance frequencies that are higher. But the important thing here is, from an engineering point of view, is if you want to stimulate a nerve, you'd want to have a pulse magnetic field over 8. You may want to go to 10 or 12 or 20 hertz cycles per second. If you want to calm a nerve, you want to turn it down to maybe 2 or 4 cycles per second. That's in general, but you won't know which is best for you until you try it. So it's important to have a device that allows you to tune it to your own special needs. First thing to really be accepted as a medical device with a small acupuncture magnet, because the acupuncturists can use any of a number of things, from their fingers to needles to sharp probes to little seeds to little magnets, piece-sized magnets, to stimulate acupressure points or acupuncture points. So these were used for several thousand years. So it's kind of hard to say you can't use them again, because obviously they're having an effect. What I've observed, if you have a condition that needles pricking the skin makes it worse temporarily, instead of using needles, try the acupuncture magnets. And that way it doesn't prick your skin and you don't have the exaggerated response because you're hypersensitive to skin pricks. The other magnets that are commonly used are pads or shoe inserts. And we call those grid magnets because they're alternating north and south fields. So I'm going to review a little bit with some pictures of what I'm talking about. The Earth's magnetic field, the Earth spins on a north and south pole axis. That's actually tilted, but for this demonstration or diagram, we're showing it vertically. Off-centered by about 9 to 10 degrees of latitude is the Earth's magnetic field. And what's interesting about this is the North Pole is obviously north, but the south end of a compass magnet points to the North Pole. So on a compass magnet where it says N for north, it's actually a South Pole. And this is confusing because Japan has the opposite. It says that a South Pole is a North Pole and North Pole is a South Pole. So all the recommendations that come from Asian medicine that might or may not use the Japanese nomenclature will give you the opposite thing if you're trying to use traditional physics from traditional Western point of view. So when they talk about unipolar magnets, they're taking a dipole, which is a north and south field magnet. All magnets, as far as we know in the universe, are north and south fields. If you can discover a monopolar magnet, you will get the Nobel Prize in physics. You also will be sucked up by the black hole that made it. So it's probably not going to happen anytime soon. What we look at is where this red double arrow is, it's the transition between the north-orientated field, and the south orientated field is doing all the work. So the patents that were developed to make products to interact with the human body started out with a refrigerator magnet setup where one side of the pad was north and the other side south. And it went to parallel lines where it alternated north and south. The first patent I was able to find was in Germany in 1933, and it showed that when you had parallel line magnets like this, and you put the parallel lines at right angles, perpendicular to the cut, it would heal in half the time. If they were the same alignment as the cut, it had no effect, and that was the basis for a patent. So that's not a medical claim, that's an observation that was documented in history and acknowledged by the patent office in Germany, which usually knew pretty much what they were doing. As a result, they came up with the bullseye. You'll see on the right of the screen, the bullseye magnet, and it was alternating north and south fields. It didn't matter whether the south was in the middle or the north was in the middle. And then the subsequent patents came up with a checkerboard and triangle and various types of triangular paths. What made these grid magnets useful is that you could use many magnets over an area, and you could lower the strength of the magnet so it's much more gentle, so you could use them without overstimulation. So this gave you a chance to affect the whole area instead of one small acupuncture point or acupressure point. So then we come to what else you can do and what's out there. You have the Earth's magnetic field, you have acupuncture magnets, you need an expert to show you. You have the grid magnets where you can just kind of experiment around. I use the shoe inserts on my back, my neck, everywhere. But you'll also find that there's magnets embedded in bracelets and necklaces. The first thing I'll tell you is that half of the ones that people have brought me don't have magnets in them. So you get what you pay for. You find out those that have magnets, and then you use them and see what works for you. The other most common way that people are using magnetic products is with seat cushions and mattress pads. And it's very difficult to figure out what effect you're having on the whole body from a seat cushion or mattress pad. So again, try and see what you like. The mattress pads will run anywhere for $1,000 or several $1,000s. The seat cushions are much more reasonable for a budget of maybe $50 to $150 for a seat cushion. But again, try it, see what works for you. Use it periodically, not all at once. Don't go it for 8 hours because you probably will overstimulate the first time you use it. If you're really sensitive, you probably are going to get overstimulated. If you're using mattress pads, try the seat cushion first before you try it, or you may have to put the mattress pad underneath your mattress or your bed. Now, here's some science. Now, this is my version. I'm not making medical claims, but I'm pointing out as an engineer that the human body is like an antenna. So it can receive magnetic and electromagnetic energy just by being close to it. But here's the outline of the central nervous system. Obviously, it's very simplistic, but the main thing you see is the red center of the diagram is the spinal cord. And the nerves that run down the hands, the arms down to the hands, come out of the neck. So you can actually put electrostim unit or electromagnetic pulse or a magnet in each of these areas, the wrist, the elbow, the shoulder, or the neck, and interact with that nerve that runs all the way down the arm. Likewise, the same thing happens for the small of the back. Those are all the nerves that go to the legs, and you don't have to put it on your feet, or if you do put it on your feet, you may want to put it on your low back as well. Same thing for the knees. If you want to put something on your knees, try it on the low back as well as the knees and see if you get a combined effect. More importantly, there's a part of the nervous system called the autonomic nervous system. This is the nervous system that runs your body. It puts you on automatic. It's like a thermostat on the heat and cooling system on your house. If you want to calm things down, you stimulate the parasympathetic nerves, and they're mainly around your neck and head and your low back. But the vagus nerve runs from all the way up here in your neck, all the way down to the heart, the lungs, the digestive tract, and it promotes digestion, rest, and relaxation and healing. On the other side, I'm going to switch to the next slide here to show you the sympathetic. The sympathetic is a fight or flight, the stress response. It's based on adrenaline. If you have anything that works with adrenaline, that's the fight or flight response, the sympathetic nervous system. And if you're in flight mode or fight mode, You want to have your heart pounding and your lungs panning and your vasoconstriction to increase your blood pressure to perform high. You want to contract the fascia so that it strengthens and stabilizes the muscles so the muscles aren't hurt when you get them hit, and it makes them stronger. And you want to have the nerves running through the muscles to perform at the highest level. The problem with this is it can block healing, as you see on the right side of the slide here. All these different things are great when you're running or fighting, but if it blocks the healing, it blocks what you see in green on the left side of the slide. The vagus nerve calms, the adrenaline accelerates. The heart and lungs calm down, relax, dilate, and breathe deeply. The lungs pant and the heart beats fast. Really important to understand that the vasodilation is how you heal an area, and vasoconstriction is how you make it perform, but then it gets starved for blood flow in and out of the area and lymph flow in and out of the area if you continue vasoconstriction after you're finished fighting and running. The healing response is where you want to spend 95% of your time, because that's where you recover from all the things you do. And unfortunately, fight or flight syndrome, if you stay locked into that, it can block the healing and end up with very high dysfunction and all sorts of pain syndromes, many of which you have. So let's talk about what pain is, or the types of pain. First type of pain is very obvious. You have injury pain. You have an injury, you have a surgery, you have something that cuts, tears, or breaks a bone. These things are incredibly painful, very intense, and they have magic drugs called opiates that do a wonderful job at numbing them out. You can go in and have heart surgery, and they can actually pull your heart out and replace it with another heart and give you morphine, and you'll feel comfortable after the surgery until you finish recovering. The second type of pain is inflammatory pain, and that's the wear and tear pain. That is what happens to football players when they're 35 and 40 years old. That's what happens to basketball players and their backs and their knees and their feet. They have inflammatory pain. They block the circulation to the joints, and it starts to wear down. Steroids and anti-inflammatory drugs, they call them NSAIDs for short, are really, really good at treating that. And if you get good treatment in those areas, you really get a lot of relief, and your body can recover. The type of pain that's intractable and difficult to deal with is neuropathic pain. It's nerve pain. It's not just the central nervous system, sensorial, it's the autonomic nerves, because they're causing dysfunction, as you see in the bottom half of this slide. You can take drugs that are central nervous system depressants like gabapentin, or you can use electrostimulation. And if you do the right place and at the right portion of the body, you can actually turn the nerve pain off. And acupuncturists are really good at doing this with magnets or needles, either one. They'll show you the points that you can use to maybe get relief. So the type of nerve pain symptoms you have is, one, it's really high pain. It's not unusual to see people at 8, 9, 10 in high pain for long periods of time. The nice thing about it is, like I said before, if you find the right switch, you can turn it off. And when you turn it off, it literally takes 30 seconds to a few minutes when you find the right switch. It may take longer for it to store circulation, relax the fascia, and get the rest of the body working to heal that area and heal any injury that's underlying it. But the nerve pain can be dealt with very quickly when you find the right switch. A lot of high pain syndromes end up with a fascia constriction, which I mentioned before, not just the muscle spasm, but the muscle sheathing and the tendons and ligaments and the fascia in the arms and the hands. Fascia with the palm of the hands and the feet can get very constricted. And when you find the right switch, many times, if you put the magnets or something like the stem on the back of the neck, on the low back, each of those will go to the hands or feet respectively. So poor circulation and stiffness is an artifact of high pain syndromes, but so is inflammation and swelling. So all these different symptoms here don't look to be nerve caused, but in fact they are nerve caused. And that's why a lot of these symptoms clear up when you calm down the nerves, especially if you have a neuropathic pain component with your condition. So I'm leaving the symptoms up at the top and talk about my strategy, what I do with my veterans and others, and myself, when they want to try a magnet. First of all, put it where it hurts. In acupuncture, they call it the acu point, the ouch point. You put a magnet right where it hurts, and sometimes it turns it off. Sometimes it makes it hurt worse. So take it off if it makes it hurt worse. Real common sense. But you can put it on, take it off, put it on, take it off, and find that you maintain a sense of recovery and a process of recovery. I always put it on the low back for anything to do with the hips, knees, and feet. I put it on my neck or head when I have a headache, or if I have any problems with my shoulders, elbows, and hands. And of course, you can put it right on the block joints themselves. If you have a swollen elbow like I've had before, or I broke my thumb and it aches from time to time, especially when weather change, I can put a magnet on it for 5 minutes and the pain goes away. That's a personal experience. I'm not making a claim. I'm making the observation that when I use it, that's what happens for me. Remember, don't overstimulate. If you're sensitive and high pain, you're going to be more than likely able to overstimulate yourself by using too strong of magnets for too long a period of time. So do the on and off bit, or do the separation bit where you put a comforter on a mattress pad or seat cushion or a pillow, separate distance the magnet from your skin. Detox slowly. If you find you're feeling worse, then give yourself a chance to recover before you use the magnets again. That's your body flushing things out, and it just takes time. And again, I repeat myself, but it's really important to understand that you need to get a healthcare professional that's knowledge and trained and experience on your team to give you some guidelines and suggestions on what will happen. So that's my presentation for the night. Hopefully that was somewhat useful, and that you can use the strategy yourself on your particular condition and see if you might get some help.